This is Toledo Symphony Lab, a behind-the-scenes look at the world of classical music from WGTE Public Media and your Toledo Symphony. I'm Brad Cresswell. Joining me today are the Toledo Symphony's president and CEO, Zach Vassar. We also have principal second violin and artistic administrator, Merwin Sue. And a couple of special guests have joined us this morning, conductor Sara Jobin and Clarence Smith of the Clarence Smith Community Chorus. Now, before we do anything, I have to put it out there that Clarence is the chairman of the WGTE board, so I have to be on my best behavior this morning.
So that's why you wore a tie.
Exactly, yeah. So if I start to get off the rails, Zach, just kick me under the table and we'll get focused again.
Okay, is this a short joke? Because there's no way I can reach you from across the table.
Proverbially, you can reach me from across the table. Now we have Sara here and Clarence. Can I call you Clarence? Is that okay?
Please do.
As opposed to Mr. Smith.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Chairman, I'll call you Chairman Smith. How's
Chairman
that?
Smith. I think Clarence will be sufficient
Okay.
for now.
We'll see how I do.
Unless you misbehave.
Yeah. So
Halfway through the interview, he'll say, actually, I'd like you to call me Chairman again.
Yes.
So you two lovely folks have joined us to talk about this amazing concert that's happening this weekend. Kathleen Battle, Ms. Battle, is coming to Toledo. She is performing a program that she has taken all around the country. This is associated with the Underground Railroad. We're going to talk about that in a moment. But first of all, the concert is Friday evening. It's March 16th at 7:30 p.m. at the Toledo Museum of Art, Paris-Style. Tickets available at toledosymphony.com. You can also call that number. Let's see if I remember it now. 419-246-8000.
Outstanding work, Brad Cresswell.
A round of applause, if you please. But last time on Symphony Lab, we talked a little bit about this North Star Festival that's ongoing. A lot of performances in the community. And we talked about the chamber concert that you all did. But this time we are talking about Kathy Battle, but I wonder if we can go back a little bit and just talk about the North Star Festival again. If you can just give us a little rundown on what that is for people who didn't hear our last episode.
Sure.
And if you didn't hear it, go back and listen to it. It's on the website.
Well, North Star Festival is a chance for the Toledo Symphony to just scratch the surface of the incredibly rich contributions made by Black musicians and really exploring them through the lens of Toledo's unique legacy as one of the critical stations of the Underground Railroad. So we're beginning with the spirituals that inspired, warned, communicated, directed, rejuvenated their performers and their listeners, and we're exploring the musical legacy of the spiritual through chamber music, large-scale symphonic works, concerti, operas, but especially and most particularly through this concert with Kathleen Battle.
Yeah, now how long is the North Star Festival going on in total?
Well, we've been actually kind of doing this since the middle of February. We actually did a kickoff event at Lathrop House in Sylvania last August. So I guess you could say we've been doing this for 6 months. But we started this with a young people's concert in February. We've been visiting libraries all over the city throughout February and March. We just did the chamber concert at the Lucas County Main Library Winter Garden. And we're going to go all the way through the end of April.
Yeah.
Very excited.
Wonderful. And folks can, of course, read all about it at toledosymphony.com. Now, Sara Jobin, I haven't seen you since it was announced that you're leaving us. I'm so sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
But good for you, though. I mean, you're off to other pastures.
Yeah.
Some exciting developments for you.
It's good overall. I'm taking everything that I learned in Toledo and bringing it with me.
Well, Zach and Merwin are here if you want to say anything to them.
I love you guys. I mean, I look forward to coming back. I'm coming back for the Messiah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I saw you're also doing working with Los Angeles Philharmonic next year, which is exciting.
That's so cool.
Fantastic.
Sarah had something on her Facebook page about that over the weekend, and it was really special to read it in print. You see, Gustavo Dudamel, Sara Jobin. It's really wild.
Yeah, wonderful.
We're so happy for you, Sara.
Thank you.
Well, you are conducting this concert. With Kathy Battle.
I'm excited to work with Miss Battle.
Can you tell us first of all, let's talk about the Underground Railroad. I mean, folks know what the Underground Railroad was, but just for due diligence, do you want to talk a little bit about it?
So it was not an actual railroad, right? But this was the path to freedom for people who were escaping from slavery and making it to the North. And Kathleen Battle is only doing this concert in cities that were part of the Underground Railroad.
Mm-hmm.
So we're very lucky that she's doing it in Toledo.
Yeah. Well, Toledo being one of those cities,
We were,
obviously.
yeah. We were on the-
How did this concert come to be? I mean, I know that she obviously Toledo was one of the stops. Did her people come to you, or did you come to her, or how did that?
I saw her do this concert in New York about a year and a half ago. She made her grand return to the Metropolitan Opera House after
22 years.
22 years, there we go. The Met was generous enough to invite her back for what was a gala performance of what we'll see here. There was no orchestra at that performance. It was a choir and piano, but they did a great job to bring the sense of the Underground Railroad to the Met. They had wonderful artists acting. Cicely Tyson was acting as Harriet Tubman. There were beautiful words and quotes during the performance from abolitionists. And everybody in that huge space was kind of brought into this sense of what we were celebrating. And it felt very much like a triumphant moment. And then you start to think that we're sitting in the Met. Kathleen Battle's back at the Met. That's a triumph. We're celebrating emancipation all these years later in a very triumphant way, and we're kind of connecting and having this dialogue through music, which I thought was a very special time. So of course, I was interested in how do we bring this to Toledo, and we were very lucky to have those discussions shortly thereafter. It really sold me on this being an important milestone. Kathy Battle is a Ohio native, and we thought that it would make sense for her to come here as she approaches the twilight of her career.
Yeah.
Her voice is outstanding. I'm blown away as to how pure it is. It was always one of my favorite voices growing up listening to her recordings. She had this gorgeous tone at the upper register, and sometimes you get nervous that that's what fades with age, but it's still there, and it's still just as milky and dark as it ever was. It's beautiful. It's just fantastic.
Oh, well, I mean, she's somebody who went about as far as you can go. In the world of classical music as a singer.
A superstar.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's fabulous that she's coming to Toledo and bringing this specific program here, I think, is really interesting.
And I just want to make the point that we're doing it with full orchestra, and we're expecting 100 choir members on stage. So it's going to be a very full stage.
Yeah.
Mr.
Clarence.
Chairman.
Big sound.
Am I still allowed to call you Clarence? Doing okay so far?
Yes. Sounding good.
Now, I understand that you were happy when you were approached with the idea of singing with Ms. Battle.
Putting it in the most reserved terms, yes, we were elated. I mean, what a tremendous opportunity. It's going to be historical for Toledo to have someone of her stature come to Toledo to perform. But in addition to that, to have an African-American of that stature as well coming to Toledo, and then the opportunity to sing with her, and then doing Negro spirituals, which is,
that's your
one of
specialty.
the things. That's right. Yeah. That's one of the things, it's our bread and butter. We love spirituals, and to have an opportunity to sing it with her is a once in a lifetime.
How do your members feel about it? I imagine they feel pretty good as well. Huh?
Oh, at least. I mean, they're very much dedicated to this project. We're in the extra rehearsals and the whole bit.
Yeah.
It's going to be a glorious event. I should also mention that we're glad to have joining us the voices of BGSU Concert Choir from obviously Bowling Green State University.
Right.
An absolutely phenomenal group. And the two groups are coming together to support Ms. Battle.
Can you talk a little bit about the community chorus, Clarence Smith Community Chorus, just so for folks who are not as familiar with it?
Sure. This is our 42nd season. I started it when I was 4. Well, not quite 4, but
4.5.
4.5, right. So this is our 42nd season. We do a wide variety of music. I used to say that we've done everything but country western, and then I guess about 15, 20 years ago, there was a traveling theatrical troupe that was going around the city, actually around Bowling Green, and they asked us to accompany the theatrical group, and lo and behold, one of the pieces that we had to do was country western. So I think we've done a little bit of everything from jazz, gospel, but our bread and butter is really Negro spirituals. Yeah. But we love it all.
Well, you have a distinguished background in education and music. You want to tell us a little bit about your path to being a choir director?
Well, that was a long path. As a matter of fact, I'm from Toledo, and I went to Scott High School. I graduated from Scott High School. While I was there, I was in choir 4 years. The choir director, David Carter, had actually been my junior high school director as well. And it was really, along with my background, my family is very musical. That plus, him being just a major character and his love for all kinds of music led me into music, period. Yeah. And from there, I went to Miami University, graduated from there, came back to Toledo, and was teaching junior high school music. And lo and behold, David Carter was retiring. He was transferring from Scott High School, which left an opening. So I thought about it about 4 seconds, especially because the junior high school job I had was pushing a piano from room to room, literally a piano from room to room to teach it. So you can imagine it was an awful lot of temptation to leave as quickly as possible. So I went to Scott High School, and I was there as a choir director for, I think it was about 16 years. And while we were there, we did all kinds of music, once again, which is, I guess it reflects my diversity of interests. Yeah. And so from there, I went into administration. But during that same time, I started the Clarence Smith Community Chorus.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about the importance of the African-American spiritual in history and in music?
Yes. Of course, what brought Negro spirituals to the international stage was the Fifth Jubilee Singers. They toured it, and then all of a sudden, people started to say, well, this really is beautiful. Prior to that, of course, Negro spirituals were being sung by the slaves, which is the tradition that it came from, and they were used for a variety of things. Be it communication about trying to escape, to a religious service. Even the slave owners used it as part of the entertainment. And then it was used as a way of maintaining work schedules in the field because of the rhythmic nature of it. So it was out of that tradition that we have Negro spirituals. And our choir, of course, we're doing the concertized version, Negro spirituals, not as they would have been done in the fields. But in the process of translating it, moving it from the fields to the concert stage, I think the essence of the spirituals, the essential message, the heart, the concern, in some cases the pain, I think all of that has been preserved. And it's part of the legacy that is America, not just Black folks, but America. And it's important that we realize that and understand it and appreciate it. That's one of the beauties of the spiritual, that it transcends culture. People of any kind of background can relate to some of the messages that are a part of the Negro spirituals. That's part of what happened when Fifth Jubilee took it on tour. All of a sudden, the European audience could relate to it. And then the U.S. said, well, if they can like it, maybe we're missing something. Yeah. And then that also raised the profile of the Negro spirituals and its acceptability, if you will, for the concert stage.
Well, and it has to be said, I mean, it is, there's some amazing music. As well, and the marriage of music and words and history there is really unmatched, I think, in the repertoire.
Yeah, and one of the things that is said that the Negro spirituals, that opportunity to hear the slave story out of the mouths of the slaves. Yeah, it's them recounting the story, the pain, the feeling, the challenges that they had. So, in that sense, it's also a unique narrative.
Yeah, Clarence Smith and his community chorus, performing with Kathleen Battle. Again, the concert is Friday evening at 7:30 p.m., March 16th, at the Toledo Museum of Art Peristyle. Tickets available at ToledoSymphony.com or 419-246-8000. You can also, I imagine, show up at the door and play ticket roulette, see if you can, see if they'll let you in. So, Clarence, how am I doing? I can still call you Clarence?
Yes, you're doing an outstanding job.
Until we step out of the room. That'll be Mr. Smith.
Very good.
Clarence is the chairman of my board of directors. So,
Brett, I'm looking at the email exchange between Clarence and Sara. This is a year ago or more. And Sara has asked you to participate in this concert, Clarence, and you responded, Kathleen Battle, or exclamation point.
I think you should have him read it.
Emoji.
It says, OMG, if there's any way possible for us to participate, we would love to. And you said, I saw an announcement about her concert on Facebook a couple weeks ago. I sent that notice to our members in hopes of organizing a group to go. So you're just looking to attend?
Yes, right.
But to be able to sing with her would be fantastic and historic. Do you want to talk a little bit about why it means so much to you to perform with Kathleen Battle?
Well, it means a lot to me on so many different levels. As you know, I'm an educator as well. And then here's an opportunity for our community to hear spirituals and hear a voice that is, just phenomenal. It's one of those once-in-a-lifetime kinds of experiences. So from the educational standpoint, I think it's important for us to be aware. I think it's important for African Americans to be aware of Kathleen Battle. Obviously, opera is not one of the ordinary venues that African Americans participate in, and in some cases don't have a lot of appreciation for. This is an opportunity to broaden that audience. Mm-hmm. We are performing, of course, but in the process of us performing, I think we have a party of at least 50 or 60 people that have purchased tickets that would be in the audience to hear this concert.
Right.
So it's taking on a stature within our community that is significant. Also, just culturally speaking, it's important for us to hear that kind of voice. Mm-hmm. So I've listened to recordings. I've never had the opportunity to hear her in person, but I've heard all kinds of recordings and I've seen videos of her, and it is a moving experience. What she can do with her voice is just amazing.
It's one of the best machines I've ever seen. I mean, it can be just fiercely powerful and then just float up to the most delicate high note.
Yes.
And, if you've ever been in the presence of great singers, there's this sort of palpable energy that if you're standing a foot away from them, your hair will blow back, right?
Yeah.
But, I mean, it really is to be in the presence of genius to see her.
It really is. So I think it's going to be a unique opportunity for us. I think it's going to be even more special for African Americans, and I want to thank the symphony for making this happen. This is a unique opportunity from an inclusion standpoint. That's another one of the hats that I wear as a diversity consultant. From an inclusion standpoint, this is a significant program. There are going to be obviously a lot more African Americans in the audience than usually are there. They're going to be back. I'm sure of that. After hearing her. Also, it takes some of the strangeness of the peristyle and the symphony. Yes, there is a communication that occurs, once again, that transcends culture. Regardless of who you are, you can appreciate the musicality and the message and the level of expertise that's going to be demonstrated that day.
Well, go ahead, Sara.
And I just want to say it's such a privilege for us to be able to work with the Clarence Smith Community Chorus and also with Voices from BGSU, which is directed by Christopher Carter, who's an incredibly talented student. He's still a student, but he's also a fantastic director.
Yes, he is.
And it's just such a privilege for us to have these two groups in town that we get to collaborate with. It's a huge privilege for me.
Well, we thank you for the opportunity, and there's nothing more exciting than singing with an orchestra. That's a mind-blowing experience by itself. So we are excited, in case you haven't picked up on that.
Well, this is, I want to ask, just pick your brain a little bit about sort of a peripheral subject here. And you mentioned, Clarence, that this concert with Kathy Battle will provide a draw for many more African Americans than you would normally see, perhaps, at a symphony concert. Diversity and reaching diverse audiences, it's always a challenge for the performing arts organizations that sort of come from that European tradition. And I'm wondering if anybody has any thoughts about how to better reach those audiences? I mean, you have experience with that with your chorus.
Yes. Well, I think this is a good example of it. The fact that we are bringing together African Americans, because it's important that they also be performing and not just something that's being done for them, but an actual, actually an equal participant in the experience. I think the music itself, we have the opportunity of a symphonic ensemble that is accompanying the chorus, but the type of music that we're doing comes from the African American tradition. Yeah. So that's going to draw a link. So it's all of these various linkages, if you will, that will help to diversify the audience and help us all to see that there's something to be offered. Because ideally what would happen as we have this melting together of at least two cultures coming together, is that not only will African Americans and others attend more symphony concert programs, but also some of those audience members will hear these primarily African American choirs, because both groups are mixed, but primarily African American choirs, and want to follow them. So it's that cross-pollination that's going to help enrich our culture that much more, our general Toledo culture that much more. Yeah.
There is something to be said, though, is that the community of Toledo is so lucky to have so many artistic partners, and the symphony is really lucky to bring everybody together in this. I mean, the strength of our community is through expression, and I'm very excited that we get to share that expression on one stage.
Yeah.
I think that's actually maybe a really wonderful tie-in, because one of the things that we've looked as we move towards our 75th anniversary is we've been the Toledo Symphony for 74 years. We've just, for this 75th year, we're really trying to take that extra effort to make the apostrophe S, Toledo Symphony, really mean something. And we've been talking so much about history and so much about stories and also so much about talent. And one of the wonderful things about Toledo is it's a repository of such wonderful history, so much of it to do with the Underground Railroad, but also so much wonderful talent. And it is really a privilege for the Toledo Symphony to really be Toledo Symphony and to represent in all of its diversity and all of its, all of those wonderful stories, all of that talent, to be able to work with them on all of our stages. It's far from limiting. It's empowering. It's really, really exciting to program that way.
Yeah.
And, thanks to St. Martin de Porres, we've been doing Black History Month concerts for 28 years, I think, every year. But I also wanted to say that with multiculturalism and music, the thing about music is that it has the power to transcend whatever social boundaries that we think we have or that are there. I can remember singing in a gospel choir at Glide Memorial Church I was in the choir like full time for 9 years. I still consider myself a member, but those performances, I was simultaneously working at San Francisco Opera. So I'd be at San Francisco Opera all week and then Glide Church on Sunday morning. And, we're always reaching for that experience where you just lose yourself in the music. And not to speak anything against San Francisco Opera, but we reached that more consistently on Sunday morners in that gospel choir. And, every Sunday morning we were there, and you would just lose yourself in the music and it becomes a part of something bigger than yourself. You just find that you're all connected.
Well, from my own experience, I remember going to a gospel service once with a friend of mine in Brooklyn. It was the first time I had ever been exposed to actual, in context, gospel music in church. And it was just sort of a whirlwind of emotions and how the music swept me up. And my friend leaned over me and said, "Do you feel better?" I said, "Yeah." And she was like, "That's the point."
Yeah.
Right. So it's music that really gets inside of you.
Is there something on the program?
So come on Friday night, because that's what we're doing.
I was just going to ask you, Sarah, is there something on the program that will sweep us up? Is there something that means so much to you, or you, Clarence, that you're really looking forward to sharing with the community? Words that really stand out to you, music that really moves you?
I think we should just go down this list. Starting with Lord, How Come We Here, go down Moses.
Well, there's some very interesting arrangements that are here. In many cases, they're not the usual arrangements. I'm thinking of Go Down Moses, where I think it's very moving. At the same time, it's a challenging piece because the tonalities keep shifting, reflecting the sort of wandering about that's going on that the Israelites were experiencing, tying that to the slavery experience and the struggles there and the challenges that were felt. And at the same time, the feeling that God has his hands in this, that God ultimately will bring us from whatever this negative experience, this traumatic experience that we're going through. So I think that the audience will find that very moving. Mary Had a Baby is another one of the selections that we're doing. Traditional piece. It really showcases Ms. Battle phenomenally well. I mean, her control is, just out of this world.
This Little Light of Mine.
Yes.
I mean, there's a balm in Gilead. He's got the whole world in his hand.
And then we even have a sort of a gospel kind of feel. I don't feel no ways tired. I'm interested to see how gospel-ish we're going to get on that one. But so there's that diversity even within the Black experience that's going to be a part of this concert. And the traditional Let Us Break Bread Together. It's a beautiful arrangement that's being done. And one of my favorite Negro spirituals, he's got the whole world in his hand, a choral and soloist arrangement. I love that song just with the soloist. And then having the choir back that up, it will be a special moment.
Oh,
Swing Low, Sweet Chariot.
Sounds fantastic.
And then we're going to close with Lift Every Voice and Sing, the Carter arrangement of it, which is the concert expanded.
Big blowout.
And they're going to be all of 100 voices singing it at the same time.
And I assume that'll be a sing-along.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Folks can sing along if they so choose.
Yes.
Well, the concert is Friday evening at 7:30 p.m. at the Toledo Museum of Art Peristyle. Kathleen Battle, Underground Railroad, A Spiritual Journey. Just sounds like such a fantastic evening that we have in store. And we should mention that you folks are making available group discounts. So I know people from my church are coming en masse. If there are any other churches out there, organizations, and you want to get some people together, do that. Call up the box office, tell them you have a group, and they'll cut you a deal. 419-246-8000 is the phone number, or at ToledoSymphony.com. I want to thank Zach and Merwin, our usual panelists here, but also conductor Sara Jobin and Clarence Smith of the Clarence Smith. Conductor Clarence Smith.
Chairman Clarence Smith.
Chairman Smith. There's so many, I'm going to say Clarence as often as I can before we get out of the room, because then it's back to Mr. Smith. Chairman of the Board of Directors here at WGTE, as well as the founder and conductor of the Clarence Smith Community Chorus, which will be performing along with the Voices at BGSU. Great big giant 100-voice chorale backing up Kathleen Battle. And, of course, the Toledo Symphony will be there as well. Toledo Symphony Lab is generously underwritten by a gift from the estate of Barbara Garwood and is a production of WGTE Public Media in collaboration with our sponsor, the Toledo Symphony. You can download episodes of this program as a podcast by going to our website at wgte.org/lab or by subscribing to us on Apple Podcasts. And remember, you can check out all the upcoming events at the Symphony by visiting their website. That's at ToledoSymphony.com, and their various social media outlets on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I'm Brad Cresswell. You've been listening to Toledo Symphony Lab here on FM 91.